who's afraid to call out LeBron. LeBron's a great player and a great guy. But this notion that he's got to have all the best players on his team. He's got Kyrie Irving and Kevin Love. He wants everybody. He don't want to compete. He want to be the favorite all the time.
You know what's fascinating? The ripple effect of LeBron James deciding that competing wasn't enough, that winning had to be guaranteed. When he joined forces with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh in Miami, it wasn't just about chasing rings, it was about rewriting the formula for contention. Suddenly, the balance of the NBA shifted, and one man's blueprint for building superteams forced the league to respond. Adam Silver and the owners watched as titles were hoarded, finals appearances monopolized, and fan bases left hopeless before the season even began. That's why the second apron exists today, a financial wall designed to stop another LeBron from stacking the deck so heavily that the rest of the league barely has a puncher's chance. Think about that, an entire rulebook amendment created because one player's influence bent the NBA to his will.
Why did Adam Silver have to put the second apron in? Because LeBron got all his guys together. KD wanted to go play with the Warriors. What? Wait, y'all don't want to win the championship and just compete against each other?
And now we're supposed to pretend this is normal? We're supposed to buy into the narrative that what LeBron did in Miami is the same as, say, a 35-year-old Charles Barkley hopping on with an aging Hakeem Olajuwon. Come on. That was desperation at the end of a career, a last swing at relevance. What LeBron orchestrated was entirely different. Three superstars in their absolute primes, plotting in advance, aligning their contracts, and essentially breaking the unwritten code of competition. That wasn't about chasing one last shot at a ring, that was about stacking the odds so heavily in your favor that the game itself felt secondary. And the league had no choice but to adapt, because if you let that version of collusion go unchecked, parity dies, suspense evaporates, and fans stop believing anyone outside the inner circle has a chance. Give me a break, it's not the same, and pretending it is insults basketball history.
We can give you no sympathy when you are LeBron James, the best player in the world, with all of those tools, top-heavy tools. We cannot have any sympathy. That's my understanding.
Let me set the stage here. Charles Barkley, a guy who doesn't need anyone's approval, who can't be bought, who's made a career out of speaking his mind, dared to make some mild criticism about LeBron's superteam era. And what happened? The LeBron Protection Agency went into DEFCON 1. Suddenly, Barkley wasn't a Hall of Famer, wasn't one of the greatest power forwards ever, wasn't a guy who carried franchises on his back. No, he was just jealous, bitter, or a hater. That's the playbook. Anytime someone questions LeBron's choices, the machine activates, drowning the conversation in excuses, twisting reality until the critique looks like nonsense. But here's the truth. Barkley didn't say anything outrageous. He simply pointed out that building cheat code rosters in your prime isn't the same as grinding it out with what you've got. And for that, the man had to endure a week-long smear campaign. That tells you everything. You don't go nuclear over a jealous old head, unless the criticism actually hit a nerve.
I just won the championship. He got a young Kyrie Irving and a terrific Kevin Love. And now,
but it takes more than that to win the championship.
They just won the championship. What do you mean it takes more?
Remember what Chuck said? He wasn't yelling, he wasn't even taking cheap shots. He simply pointed out that LeBron got everything he ever wanted. The Cavs gave him the highest payroll in NBA history. When he wanted J.R. Smith, they got him J.R. Smith. When he asked for another piece, they got it. Whatever the demand was, it got delivered. And then Chuck asked the question that cut straight to the heart of it. Does the best player in the world really need all the good players? Doesn't he want to compete? That wasn't bitterness. That wasn't jealousy. That was a Hall of Famer asking why a guy who calls himself the king seems so terrified of ruling without an army of all-stars standing behind him.
They have given him everything he wanted. They have the highest payroll in NBA history. He wanted J.R. Smith last summer. They paid him. He wanted Shumpert last summer. They bought in Kyle Korver. He's the best player in the world. Does he want all the good players? He don't want to compete?
That's it. That's the crime Charles Barkley committed. He asked the obvious question out loud. And for this, the media machine activated like Chuck had committed treason against the crown. Enter Richard Jefferson. And let's be clear, this man isn't stupid. He's sharp, articulate, he understands the game as well as anyone. Which makes what he does even worse. Because when you know the truth, when you're smart enough to see it, but you still choose to twist it. That's not ignorance. That's manipulation. And Jefferson came out swinging, not with honesty, but with deflection, revision, and spin designed to protect the brand of LeBron James.
Quickly, I remember Charles Barkley got drafted to a team with Moses Malone, maybe Dr. J and Maurice.
Really? Are we doing this? Are we really pretending that getting drafted to a team is the same thing as orchestrating a backroom deal in free agency? Let me break this down for the people in the back. Charles Barkley in 1984 was a rookie. A rookie. He didn't choose Philadelphia. He didn't walk into a GM's office with demands. He didn't hold a press conference. The Sixers chose him with the 5th overall pick. That's how the draft works. You go where you're told. Now fast forward to 2010. LeBron James, already a 2-time MVP, already crowned the chosen one, literally held a 1-hour primetime television event called The Decision, just to announce he was abandoning the franchise that drafted him, a franchise he swore he'd deliver a title to, in order to team up with 2 other top 15 players in their primes. This wasn't fate. This wasn't circumstance. This was a premeditated move to tilt the scales, a calculated play to guarantee championships without the uncertainty of true competition.
The answer to the question everybody wants to know. LeBron, what's your decision?
In this fall, man, this is very tough. In this fall, I'm going to take my talents to South Beach and join the Miami Heat.
Why?
Like I said before, I feel like it's going to give me the best opportunity to win and to win for multiple years. And not only just to win in the regular season or just to win 5 games in a row or 3 games in a row. I want to be able to win championships, and I feel like I can compete down.
But wait, it gets better. Dr. J in 1985 was a 35-year-old veteran on the backside of his career, not the prime Julius Erving who was dunking from the free throw line. Moses Malone at 30 was still useful, sure, but he wasn't his 1983 MVP self anymore. Now compare that to Dwayne Wade at 28, fresh off a top 5 MVP season and absolutely in his athletic prime. Saying those two eras are the same is either sloppy or disingenuous. Then Jefferson doubles down, and yes, I'll call it what it is, a lie, because there's no other word that fits. He trots out the 1997 Rockets as a comparison, but throwing that out as an equal example only exposes how thin the defense is. The point isn't to argue over nostalgia, it's to highlight a simple truth: drafting versus orchestrating are not the same thing, and veteran roster additions late in careers are apples to oranges when you're comparing them to 3 prime all-stars intentionally aligning to guarantee titles.
Then I remember Charles Barkley going to Houston. And then he teamed up with Akeem Olajuwon. And then Scottie Pippen was also there. So it wasn't older. Olajuwon and Charles Barkley were at year 14.
Exactly. Let's deal in reality, not revisionist history. When Barkley landed in Houston in 1996, Hakeem Olajuwon was still an all-star caliber player, no question. But fast forward to 1999 when Pippen arrived, and here's the truth: Olajuwon was 36, Barkley was 35, and Pippen was 33 with a back so unreliable it had already forced him to miss chunks of seasons. The so-called super team Jefferson points to? Their average age was 35. That's not a super team, that's an AARP meeting. Now let's stack that up against Miami in 2010. LeBron James, 26 years old. Dwayne Wade, 28 years old. Chris Bosh, 26 years old. All 3 smack in the middle of their athletic primes, all 3 top 15 players in the league, 2 of them top 5 at their peak. The average age of that core? 26. That's not veterans trying to extend their windows, that's 3 superstars deliberately aligning at their apex to dominate the league. And then comes Jefferson's gem: Pippen was in year 11, so he was in his prime. Wrong on both counts. First, it was actually year 12 by 1999. Second, Pippen averaged just 14.5 points per game that season, his lowest since 1989. He wasn't the all-world defender/scorer hybrid from the Bulls dynasty. He was a veteran limping through knee and ankle issues, and coming off back surgery that cost him 44 games the year before.
Similar situations, and we've all had thoughts about, either management or whatever, and we've always put forth the team and the respect that we have for each other to go out there and still do our job.
While it's his problem, can you help but take it personally with the commitment you made to come back?
No, I'm disappointed. I don't take it personally because I understand he's been put in a tough and difficult position. I think the disappointment comes that, if that was the case, it could have been done easily.
By 2004, Karl Malone was 40 years old. Yes, 40. He was still a smart, crafty player, but he wasn't dropping 25 a night. He was a role piece on a last-gasp title chase. Gary Payton? He was 35. The glove had already lost that elite lateral quickness that made him a terror in Seattle. Shaq was still dominant, but he wasn't Orlando Shaq or even peak three-peat Shaq. He was slowing down heavier and battling nagging injuries. Kobe was in his prime, yes, but he was literally going through the Colorado trial at the same time. That super team was a collection of fading stars and off-court chaos, not a hand-picked in-prime juggernaut. Compare that to 2010, LeBron, 26, Wade, 28, Bosh, 26. All top-tier talents at their peak, no decline, no mileage excuses, no off-court implosions. They didn't stumble together at the end of their careers, they planned it. They coordinated in their prime years to essentially break the balance of competition. But Jefferson wants to blur the lines. See, super teams existed before LeBron. No, they didn't, not like this. There's a fundamental difference between veterans at the tail end chasing one last ring and multiple top 5 guys in their absolute prime colluding to stack the deck. One is natural, the other is manufactured dominance.
Let's go to Shaq and Kobe. Does everybody remember when they recruited Gary Payton, who was still in his prime, and then they recruited Karl Malone?
Karl Malone at 40 years old was not the mailman who won MVPs in the 90s. He was a creaky veteran whose body was breaking down, logging career lows across the board. His presence was about chasing the one thing missing from his resume, a ring, not about dominating games.
Gary Payton? Same deal.
The glove was a defensive monster in the 90s. By 2004, his quickness was gone, his scoring had dipped, and his impact was nowhere near his peak Seattle days. There's a reason his own franchise traded him away. They knew he wasn't that guy anymore. Meanwhile, LeBron, Wade, and Bosh were in their absolute athletic prime. They weren't ring-chasing veterans. They were superstars colluding behind the scenes to stack the deck before Father Time even knocked on the door. That's a seismic difference. So when Jefferson says, look at the 2004 Lakers, that's a super team too, he's basically equating a retirement home reunion tour with 3 Ferraris rolling off the assembly line. It's disingenuous at best, manipulative at worst.
The Celtics?
Before Bron made his move, KG, Paul, and Ray joined up.